We have with us this afternoon our panelist, Associate Professor T.C. Chang, with his talk titled Geography at NUS, We Bring You the World. And also we will be taking questions from all of you using the Zoom Q&A function. Simply click on the Q&A tab and you will be able to ask questions as well as view other questions that have been asked by other people and also vote for them accordingly. I will now pass the time to Prof. Chang. Prof. Chang, please.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Good afternoon, everybody, particularly our prospective geography students at CHS and at NUS. I have with me a panel of faculty members, which I will introduce first, together with our administrative staff and 2 student leaders, followed by which I will talk about 15 minutes about what you can expect if you become a geography major. I will then get our 2 student leaders to share with you what life will be like as a geography undergraduate, a geography major, followed by about 20 minutes of Q&A. Please feel free to ask us questions. This is a small group. It's smaller than a tutorial group, right? So no need to send questions through the chat. If indeed it's so small, please ask your questions. Now, together with me, our faculty members include, so when I call your name, you just wave your hands and probably say a little bit about what you teach. I'll introduce myself right at the end. Yeah, Associate Professor Woon Chi Yuan. Maybe say a little something.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So it's so nice to see you over here for the CHS Open House. So today, hopefully, we'll give you a sense of what the geography department is actually about. So I am a sort of political geographer in the department. So I teach courses relating to political geography, geopolitics, international relations, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in these issues, this is the department to come to join us. So hopefully you enjoy the program that we have in store for you today.
Thank you, Professor Woon. We move on to Dr. Manusha Da Silva. So Manusha, please.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CHS Open House. And so I'm a social cultural geographer. So my work looks at migration, aging, issues with regard to family. So these are also topics you can explore within the geography department. So we look at how, what happens when you go abroad? How do you take care of your parents, for example? So these are also issues with regard to space that you can explore.
Thank you so much, Manusha. We also have with us Dr. Wei Luo. Wei, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wei Luo, and I'm an assistant professor at the NUS Geography Department. And my background is in GIS, Geographic Information Science. And my research focused on that data geo-visualization and spatial analysis, and also the agent-based academic modeling. So application areas include like the COVID, right, for example, and the dengue. And so you think about the disease transmit and over the space and the time. And so you can learn from the geography, learn those things from geography too. And my other research areas focus on like the international trade. So you can think about that as a trade relationship around the world, and over also the geography and the time. And some other interested research include like the crime, climate change, and water security. These are some things you can learn from geography areas. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Wei. Thank you very much. We have one administrative staff, Mrs. Chong Mui-Gek, so to help us with questions that we are not able to answer. We have 2 student leaders with us, Sherilyn and Khairul. Sherilyn is the president of the Geographical Society, which is an undergraduate society. Khairul is the vice president. Sherilyn, would you like to say something? And then followed by Khairul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherilyn, a year 2 undergraduate, soon to be year 3 in the new academic year. I'm the president of the Geographical Society, and I'm excited to show you how exciting student life can be here as a geography undergraduate. Thank you.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Khairul. I'm currently in my third year, going to my fourth year in the new academic year. I'm the Vice President of Outreach at the Geographical Society. And yeah, likewise, I'm very excited to share with you all the things that we are doing at JogSop. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Sherilyn and Kai. We have a large group of people with very different backgrounds and also duration of time in NUS, right? Just now, Dr. Wei Luo, who shared with you his specialization in geographic information science, has been with us for less than 1 year. In fact, less than 6 months. So he's the newest staff member, one of the newest staff member in the Department of Geography. I have been teaching in this department for, so embarrassing, 30 years, 30. So we have people who have been teaching 6 months, we have people who have been teaching 30 years. So we have a huge range of people. Collectively, we want to share with you the world of geography and how geography at NUS, geography at CHS brings you the world. You know, in preparing this session, I was thinking about what students ask all the time, including students who have done geography at O and A levels, but also students who have never done geography, but are thinking of majoring in geography. The first question, what is geography like at NUS? What is geography? Secondly, what will I expect in the very first module I take in August this year? And thirdly, once I clear this gateway module, what is my life like as a geography major over the next 4 years? So we're going to answer these 3 questions. What is geography at NUS? What is geography as a first year student? And beyond my first year, my first semester, what is life like as a geography major? I will be getting Sherilyn and Kai to also continue beyond what I have to say about the life of a geography major, because perhaps it is most useful hearing it from another student, a year 3, a year 2, and a year 3 student. In many ways, geography is about our environment, the physical environment that surrounds us, but also our human environment. In this department, we have 3 research and 3 teaching areas. One is called tropical environmental change. Now, for many O and A level students, you probably are more familiar with the term physical geography. So in a way, tropical environmental change is physical geography. A second teaching and research area is social cultural geography. So human geography that deals with urban, population issues, tourism issues, and so forth. And the third area, also human geography, we call it politics, economies, and space. It deals with economic geography, financial geography, political geography, innovations, and technologies. Basically, therefore, when you come into the department, we define geography broadly in these 3 areas: physical geography and human geography, but we express it as tropical environmental change, social cultural geographies, and politics, economies, and space. Now, very often people say, well, I'm interested in geography, but I would like to go to another department which is stronger than the NUS department. Every March, QS, which is an academic and research organization, has basically an international poll on the top departments and universities in the world. This year, in March 2021, the Department of Geography at NUS is ranked 5th best. Not 5th best in Asia, 5th best in the world, and the best in Asia. There are only 4 departments better than us, based on the reputation of our graduates, our research impact, our connections with alumni, and employers thinking about what the department is like, right? So basically, this is the 5th best department in the world. And if you think that maybe perhaps this is a fluke, last year it was 8th position. We've always hovered within the top 10, top 12 positions in the world. Indeed, when you come into the Department of Geography, you are coming into a world-class department based on its research impact and innovation, its reputation for the graduates that we produce, and many other factors. So keep this in mind, right? We move on very quickly to, now I know what geography is like, at least defined in this world-class department, to what is first-year geography. Now, either fortunately or unfortunately, I'll be the first face you will see. I will be taking you in your very first lecture in August, because you'll be doing GE 1101E, right? So this is the very first module, and appropriately we call it geographical journeys. It is the start of a 4-year journey to becoming a geography major. And in this module, we basically introduce to you the world of environmental geography and the world of human geography. This is a gateway module to all other modules in the department. And in this module, we basically pick some of the key world issues, from migration to climate crises, to urban flooding, to place identity, urban problems, and so on and so forth. How do geographers view these world issues? Of course, an economist might view these world issues in a particular way. Somebody from sociology would look at it from a social perspective. But what is the value-adding geographic perspective? We'll be sharing with you the geographic perspective. Indeed, this module is a very contemporary module. We also include in GE 1101E a geographic perspective on COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, many people can see the pandemic in many ways, but what is the geographic understanding of this pandemic, from spatial clusters to social containments to the spread of a disease in particular trajectories? There is a geographic way of viewing the pandemic as it unfolds literally every minute. It is important that we also bring you out to the field. For the past 25 years, we've been bringing students to the field. Only last year, 2020, we were interrupted by COVID, right? But even then, we brought students to the field virtually. And I'm not sure whether it will take place in September this year. Sorry, this photograph is a bit too big. So yeah, I've hidden a bit of the words here. Sorry, that's my mistake. Basically, when we bring you out to the field, in this case, Singapore River, we are applying concepts, academic concepts that you've learned in class, to a real world setting, so that you'll be able to interpret landscapes with whatever you've learned in class. GE 1101E will introduce you to academic concepts, and we apply these concepts in this case, the Singapore River, a walk around Circular Road, as well as Raffles Place, a 3-hour field trip. Last year, I converted this into a virtual field trip with videos and Google Earth. We'll see what happens in September this year. Okay, yeah, so this would be the right slide, yeah? We're applying concepts to the real world. We teach you how to interpret landscapes with the concepts that you have learned. For your assignment, an assignment on geography and globalization, you decide. There is no fixed topic. So 2 years ago, there was a group of students who were very interested in Walls, the ice cream company. So I encouraged them to study this company and its globalization strategy. There is a particular group that was very interested in sushi, and one of the students here is actually a Japanese exchange student. So they decided to do a topic on sake sushi, and they interviewed a chef from this company. You decide on the topic based on the concepts that you acquire in class. It really depends on what you're interested in. This group of 4 students were particularly interested in soccer, and so they brought their interest to a football pitch. As you can see, this is real field work here. These students were particularly interested in Korean culture, and hence they had a meal at Tanjong Pagar whilst interviewing the restaurant staff. Geography and globalization according to your interests, bringing academic concepts to the real world. I want to move quickly to what is life as a geography major before I hand the time over to our 2 student leaders. Remember, I had said earlier that geography has 3 research and teaching areas. Let's convert this into the modules that you are expected to do as a geography major. Firstly, GE 1101E, compulsory. It's a gateway module. So long as you pass this module and you say you want to be a geography major, you get it automatically. All right, so there isn't like you must get B+ and above, or you must go for qualifying tests. So long as you pass GE 1101E, pass, and then declare it as a major, you become a geography major. And as a geography major, you do 2101, which is a methods module, 2215, geographic information systems. So 3 compulsory modules first, followed by 3 more modules, which are introduction to tropical environmental change, introduction to social cultural geography, introduction to politics, economies, and space. In total, 6 modules, which are compulsory as you start your geographic journey. The first module with me in semester 1, and subsequently all other modules, right? Now, of course, you can do any of these modules in semester 1 as well, if you're very certain you're going to be a geography major. So 6 compulsory modules that all students take. Now, as you talk to Kai and Sherilyn later, you realize that they didn't go through this pathway. This pathway will be pioneered by you, the students entering in August 2021, right? So this is a first-time pathway for students entering into CHS. In order to graduate as a geography major, you must have 15 geography modules. So remember, 6 compulsory modules and 9 more. And the 9 more modules, you decide, depending on your interests. All 9 can come from physical geography, if indeed that's your interest. All 9 can come from politics, economies, and space, if that's your interest. Free and flexible for you to choose. When I was an undergrad, of course, there wasn't this system, but I had actually done modules from all 3 in my time, 80s and 90s, in all 3 fields. I wanted to be a geography teacher. So I wanted to cover a little bit of physical geography, a little bit of regional geography, a little bit of human geography. You can do that. 3 modules here, 3 modules social, cultural, 3 modules politics, economies, or all 9 modules in social and cultural. Okay, so bear in mind, 15 modules to be a geography major. 6 are decided for you, but you decide the other 9 modules. To me, there are benefits. I know students don't like the word F, right? You want the word A, but never mind. Indulge me. There are 3 Fs here. 3 beneficial Fs. Number 1, we provide you with firm foundation. When you do 1101, 2101, and 2215, very strong foundation in geography. But I realize students always say, you know, unlike junior college, I don't have familiar faces all my friends are dispersed, other than 1101, all the people all disappear. And I never see familiar faces. But now that you have 6 modules, and basically year 1 students go through all the same modules, you will establish friends, familiar faces in 6 modules before you go your separate ways in being flexible in choosing your 9 modules. So 3 Fs, firm foundation, friends that you get to meet after 6 common modules, and then the flexibility to choose any other 9. Actually, it's not 3 Fs. I actually think it's 6 Fs. What are 6 Fs? Firm foundation, familiar friends, free and flexible. Okay, so there are benefits in being the pioneering group in CHS when you take 6 compulsory modules and 9 flexible modules, because the foundation is firm. You have a group of familiar faces and familiar friends. Actually, that's 3 more Fs here. Familiar and friendly faces and friends, because you share the 6 classes together. And finally, you're free to decide whatever 9 modules you want to do. Regardless of the modules that you choose, being free and flexible, we always try to bring you out into the field. Now, I know that not necessarily these 2 modules are being offered in the new year, but it doesn't matter. I'm just giving you 2 examples of modules in the past where, be it bringing people to DHL Innovation Center or walking Kenridge Hill just behind the geography department, be it physical geography or human geography, we bring you out into the field. We bring you the world. In many cases, modules have a field component. In a way, it's been interrupted by COVID last year. We're trying to start them up this year, but of course, COVID has come back again. Well, come back in a bit. It's been around all the time, but in Singapore, again, we are beginning to see a second wave. But not to worry. This is a long-term plan into the future. There are at least 3 modules that have brought students to Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia. And as a faculty member, I've never even been to Fiji and Kenya. And our students, our geography undergraduates, some have gone to Fiji, some have gone to Africa. How wonderful. Of course, these are senior level modules, 3,000 and 4,000 level, but these are modules you can anticipate doing 3 to 4 years' time. So indeed, modules that bring you out to the field to do all kinds of experiment. I think it's important to also plan your vacations meaningfully. These are internships that we in the department, we're not talking about the dean's office, but we in the department curating internships for our geography majors so that every vacation, our students, like all of these here, are able to get internships in a very meaningful way for May, June, and July, basically half to 3 months, be it in private sector, public sector, the government, or in the NGO sector like ACRES and Jane Goodall. All our geography students have benefited from these internships. I actually want to end with Geographical Society. Life as an undergraduate is not complete unless you enjoy the value-adding activities organized by NUS Geographical Society, but I would encourage you to be a student leader yourself, so that not only are you participating, you're also organizing meaningful activities like sports days, geography challenge, tree planting day for yourselves, for your peers. And on this note, I'm going to hand the floor over to Sherilyn, the President of Geographical Society, and Khairul, the Vice President of the Society, to share more about life as an undergraduate. But if you have any questions you want to ask us, you can ask us later on. But if you want to email me, sorry, so this is SG, it's cut off here, ctc@nus.edu/sg. That's my email. Please drop me an email. So let me ask Kai and Sherilyn to share for about 5 to 8 minutes activities that you plan for geography students.
Allow me to share the screen.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen? Okay, so thank you, Prof. Chang. So hi, everyone. I'm Sherilyn, the president of the Geographical Society, and I have with me today Kai, one of my vice presidents of the Geographical Society. So we're here today to share about the types of activities organized by GeogSoc that you can look forward to throughout your university years as a geography undergraduate. So next slide, please. Okay, so just a brief introduction. The NUS Geographical Society is a non-profit organization where we dedicate to serve the needs, welfare, and aspirations of the students of geography in NUS. We hope to maintain a strong and close relationship between the student committee and faculty at the Department of Geography, and we hope to promote the discipline of geography among the Singaporean student community. So this year, we are actually in our 55th management committee. Yep, so next slide, please. All right, so at NUS Geography, you will definitely have an exciting student life. So here is just a glimpse of some of the activities that will enrich your lives here at NUS Geography. So we'll be talking about the welcome tea, the majors tea, our external collaborations, as well as our majors outing. So I will now briefly go through what you can expect at each event. Firstly, we have the welcome tea. So the welcome tea is actually an event specially curated for potential geography majors such as you, and it's usually held in early August right after the first GE 1101E lecture. At the welcome tea, you can expect an opening address by our head of department to officially welcome you to geography, and the introduction to the geography department, followed by a short presentation by GeogSoc. At this event, first-year students like you can take the chance to clarify doubts with regards to the geography curriculum, modules offered, and even certain administrative affairs. The event would then be followed by a networking session, which allows freshers like you to interact with professors and seniors in the department over some delicious food and drinks. Next slide. So moving on, we have the majors tea that is catered to all geography majors, and it's usually held in the second semester of every academic year. At the majors tea, we invite guest speakers who are our very own geography alumni to share more on their careers and provide insights to what we can look forward to in the working life. Geographers can take this chance as well to ask them questions that they have in mind. Our career guidance advisor, Mr. Tan Kok Guan, will also be present to share more about the career prospects and tips and tricks in career aspects. At the end of the event, once again, we will end off with time allocated for networking session over food and drinks as well. Okay, next slide. Moving on, GeogSoc takes pride in our very attractive collaborations with external organizations that geography majors always look forward to take part in. So these include our tree planting event, the GeogSoc URA workshops, as well as the Geography Challenge. Next slide. So the tree planting event is actually a pilot event that took place just last week in collaboration with the Singapore Botanic Gardens. So as a way to raise awareness on the importance of tree planting, as well as allow geographers to play an active role in conservation, geography majors were actually introduced to the tropical forest known as the Learning Forest at the Singapore Botanic Gardens, and were given a chance to plant 2 trees each under the guidance of collaborators from the Singapore Botanic Gardens. We are looking to host the tree planting event in both semesters 1 and 2 during an academic year, so fresh geographers like you can look forward to participating in this throughout your university years. Next slide. So next up, we have the GeogSoc URA workshops that is in collaboration with the Urban Redevelopment Authority. So these workshops seek to educate and raise awareness on Singapore's urban landscapes, as well as the importance of urban redevelopment. So as geography majors, you get the chance to have hands-on experiences in developing workshop proposals and even conducting workshops for secondary school and pre-university students. For those who have a passion for youth, education, urban planning, or if you are simply curious about URA's work and would like to mingle with like-minded friends in URA staff, you're definitely in for a treat during your geography undergraduate years. Okay, next slide. One of the largest events that geography majors love to take part in would be the Geography Challenge. So I'm sure this one is one of the events that might be familiar to you, or you might even have taken part in Geography Challenge before. So for those who are not familiar with this, the Geography Challenge is an annual geography competition held in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and the Geography Teachers Association of Singapore. The aim is to challenge and pique the interest of secondary school students. So geographers get the chance to develop themes, question papers, and even chart the direction of designated components. So if you are someone who likes hands-on activities, geography majors can take on the opportunity to execute the event itself as well. Do look forward to taking part in Geography Challenge for a chance to engage, empower, and educate students beyond NUS geography. Okay, next slide. Now, one of the most exciting events that geographers look forward to would be the Majors Outing. At Majors Outing, we bring you around Singapore. So Majors Outing are meaningful field trips that bring geographers together out into the field to broaden our horizons and experience geography beyond the four walls. I will now share with you some places that we have been throughout the years. So firstly, we've been to the Pulau Semakau Landfill, where we actually chartered a ferry to get there. Next slide. We've also had a tour around the Singapore Botanic Gardens led by Prof. Chang, where we visited 3 good class bungalow areas. Next slide. We had a chance to take a trip to the Central Sikh Gurdwara, and we were hosted by the Young Sikh Association, where we learned more about the practices and beliefs of the Sikhs. Next slide. Due to COVID-19, unfortunately, we were unable to organize large-scale field trips like the past. However, JOGSA has decided to bring Singapore to geographers through our virtual field trip to Tanjong Pagar Conservation Area. So we did a live stream together with our guest professor, Dr. Kamalini Ramdas, to bring geographers through the area as Dr. Kamalini shares her expertise with us on the sites. So if you're interested to find out more about this virtual field trip, do visit us on our Instagram page at nus.geog, where we have uploaded the session on Instagram TV. Okay, next slide, please. So now, those are just some of the activities that we have that you can participate in and experience an exciting undergraduate life, and I hope you're excited about it. So to start off your academic year and university life here at NUS Geography, you have to join our annual Freshers Immersion Camp. So this year, the theme for the camp is Continue, which translates to connect in Latin, and encapsulates the purpose of the camp, which aims to connect freshers from different backgrounds to our geography community. So if you are looking forward to learn more about university life in NUS Geography, forge new and lasting friendships, and even develop a strong network both within and among cohorts of incoming and your geography peers, do join our Freshers Immersion Camp. So signups will officially open on 24th May, and you can visit our Instagram page at nus.geogfic for more information. Next slide, please. So if you're interested to find out more about the NUS Geographical Society, we will be involved in the CHS student group feature tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Do tune in to hear more about what we do. Yep. Next slide. Okay, thank you so much. Keep calm and jog on. For more information, or if you wish to find out more, you can follow us on our social media at the right bottom corner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherilyn and Kai. Students, we welcome you to ask questions. I already noticed 2 questions in Q&A, but come on, ask them. Show us your face. Tell us your name, where you come from. So, first question. We see 2 questions, but why not share a little bit more and tell us about your concerns? Anybody? While we are anticipating students coming in, maybe Prof. Woon, could you have a look at the first Q&A? What's the workload like?
Shall I try to answer that? I think other colleagues can then build on my sort of answer as well.
Yes.
I think, I don't think a geography sort of module is any more sort of workload heavy as compared to all the other modules in FASS or the kind of like arts and social sciences that you will encounter. So I think it's quite sort of even across various sort of like subdisciplines. But I think, in a sort of standard workload, right, for a module, you can expect, for instance, a weekly lecture. Every lecture you're expected to do 1 or 2 readings for that particular lecture. And every other week, there is a tutorial session which you have to prepare for. And there will normally be 2 or 3 assignments per module that you will have to engage in. But the good thing is, as Prof. Chang has signaled earlier, right, a lot of our sort of like, essays or assignments, right, are very fun and engaging and relevant. We tie certain sort of, let's say, certain field trips, that you reflect on certain field trips and then submit that as kind of assignment, as a sort of like a very fun and engaging sort of assignment. For a module I teach, for instance, on political geography at a level sort of level 2000 sort of level, I get students to actually watch films and then reflect on geopolitical issues. So how do sort of James Bond film, for instance, right, represent terrorism sort of issues, and then get you all to reflect on it, and work it into a sort of assignment. So most of the assignments, are manageable, they are engaging, they are relevant, they are also fun for you to do. So I think, it's a sort of very typical sort of workload, but very, very sort of things, interesting and fun things for you to engage in.
Thank you so much, Prof. Woon. Joanna Lim had asked a question, which I'll ask Kai as an undergraduate to answer. So Kai, the transition from A-levels geography to university geography, what are the common challenges faced by freshmen and freshwomen? Thank you, Kai.
Hi, Joanna. So thank you for the question. Actually, that's a very good one. And I get this all the time from juniors. So as Prof. Chang said, when you have to take G11 and 1E as a gateway module, and this module is taught assuming that you have no geography background. So it starts you off on a very clean slate. So you don't have to consult your A-level notes if you're having issues with it, because you can just learn from the module itself and learn from your peers. As for the higher level modules, the transition between A-level and O-level, A-level and university geography is that you will have to go a bit deeper, and you will learn your concepts at the very beginning, and then you will see how your concepts are applied to different, like different contexts, like through case studies and all the things that you'll be learning in the lecture. And more importantly, the modules are very focused to a particular theme. So like urban geography, migration, hazards. So it will be very, very focused. Yeah, so having said that, when you do the level 2000, the new level 2000 modules that will introduce you to each theme, each like pillar of geography in NUS, you will be able to pick up the basics, and then you will build on your foundation from G11 and 1E. So no worries, actually. Yeah, you have good professors who will help you, and you have your friends who you can ask for help as well, and of course your seniors. Yeah, so not a very bumpy transition at all. I would say it's very, very smooth.
What about examinations? Dr. Manusha, are examinations mainly written, so 2-hour exams, as people are familiar with at O and A levels, or are they project-based? So Manusha De Silva, could you share with us?
Thank you, JC. So it's a mix of both, I would say. So you do have certain written assignments, but they're also project-based. So a lot of the project-based assignments are group-based projects. So, I mean, we have fieldwork projects, but also one module that I'm teaching is on cultural geography. So as a group, you would analyze the culture. Now, this time around, I had students working on heavy metal VTubers. So you can go and study some a culture that we would consider alternative and do a project on that. So we give you the tools, and then you apply to a particular project you decide on as a group. But of course, certain assignments also have a written element to it. So a bit like what Prof. Woon said, things like video film analysis. There is a written component to it, but it's also quite fun. We give you these assignments are made for you to apply those tools. So it's a mix of both, but I would say, yeah, so you have both of them. Yeah.
Dr. De Silva is a human geographer. I'll ask Dr. Wei Luo, who is a physical geographer who teaches GIS, what are the examination like in your previous semester? Dr. Wei Luo, thanks.
Yeah, everyone. And actually, that is the two modules I taught last semester was that the more gradual level 4,000 and or 5,000 and modules. So our exam more focused on the final project. It will be the group project, and so the students need to organize a team, and then identify a project topic they are interested in, and then collect the data, use a method technology they learn from the modules, and to achieve their goals. So it's not like an examination; it's more like the project. Yeah.
So Dr. Wei-Luo is correct at a higher level, 4,000 level, so fourth year, but Dr. Wei-Luo also taught higher than that 5,000 level. Very often is 100% continual assessment. And so there isn't a 2-hour, 3-hour, for that matter, even a 24-hour paper. It could be stretched over a few weeks, in this case, a group project. Yeah, I will ask Associate Prof. Wen Chi-Yuan to answer the question, on minors. If you wanted to do geography as a minor, so major is 15 modules, minor is 6 modules, but there are different types of minors. I'll ask Prof. Wen to say something about minors to answer that particular question. Prof. Wen.
Yep. Yeah, so I think in year one, right, you will have, because when you come to CHS in year one, I think you would do a lot of interdisciplinary modules first, as a year one sort of like for the basis of the year one itself. But then subsequently, right, if you sort of do geography as a minor, as Prof. Chang said, right, you'll have to do 6 modules in geography, and that will include the compulsory module GE 1101E, plus the sort of like the 2 methods module, plus the 3 sort of like introductory modules across the 3 sort of subdisciplines of geography. So the TAG, the intro to social and cultural geography, and the intro to political geography. So that's the 6 sort of modules that you have to take, as a geography minor. But there are other sort of minor programs and that the geography department actually sort of offers as well. If you do a sort of like, let's say, a geography major, but you can also do a sort of minor in other sort of programs. For instance, we have a minor in urban studies. We have a minor in sort of GIS. So those are things that you can also take on even as a geography major, but you can take on this sort of minor programs as well, if you're interested in those sort of subdisciplines like urban studies or GIS.
Thank you very much. So bear in mind, you can do geography as a minor. So the 6 modules, which everybody has to do anyway, those are the 6 modules, and that's a minor. But you can also do minor in urban studies, minor in geosciences. So they will require their own 6 modules, but in the mix of modules that we offer in the department. Yeah. No better person to answer the last question, Sherilyn. Somebody asked, what are the requirements to join Geographical Society? So Sherilyn, please take that question. Oh, sorry, I can't hear Sherilyn, but no problem. Can people hear Sherilyn or Kai?
I can hear you, Sherilyn, as well.
Sherilyn, I think you're on mute. No.
Perhaps Kai can answer if Sherilyn.
Kai, I think so.
Sure. I'll take the question. Yeah, so requirements to join Geog. So actually, honestly, just nothing much at all. You just have to have the passion to serve the community and want to contribute your skills in whatever way you want. So there are a few cells in Geographical Society that you can find where you can contribute the most, and then you just have to run for a position in the elections, which will be held sometime in week 4 or week 5 in semester 1 of the academic year. So that's around end of August. Yeah, so not much at all. We will talk about more. We can release more information about this in FIC and especially during the welcome tea. Yeah.
So every single geography major is welcome to be a member of the Geographical Society. Now, a lot of students are considering, other than geography as a major, I would want a second major. or in some cases, I want a minor. Or for that matter, you can do 2 minors. So remember, there are a number of pathways. Of course, what we want you to do, geography as a major. This is the simplest pathway. Next pathway, geography as a major, and then you have another major, right? Geography as a major, you have 1 minor. Geography as a major, you can choose 2 minors. So there are a number of pathways, but the question asked is, if I want to have a double degree, okay, double degree. So it's not just 1 degree. Geography is social sciences, bachelor's social sciences. But if I want a double degree, what module should I do? Yeah, GE 1101E, geography, social sciences. Double degree would mean you probably are thinking of arts, so the humanities bit, which means philosophy or history or literature. So you must also do modules in that particular area. And of course, 1101 is a module you have to do in order to be a major, to do a double major, you have to do 1101 in the majors that you're looking for, right? So remember, geography is social science. Double degree means social science. At the same time, you want an arts degree. So it's probably literature, philosophy, history. You have to do 1101. All majors must do gateway modules. Are there more questions? Although we've finished our 45 minutes, we are also told that we can go a little bit beyond because the next session starts at 1 p.m. So are there more questions that students would like to ask, not just on the Q&A platform, but openly speak up and tell us who you are, what are your concerns?
Maybe as we wait for questions, can I just add on to what Prof. Chang just said, right? I think under the CHS program, the good thing is that you don't only have to do a major within, let's say, arts and social sciences. You can also do a major in science as well. I think you can do a major in, let's say, physics, biology, as well as a geography sort of degree as well. So I think that's the sort of merits of the CHS program.
Any questions at all from our students, our prospective students? I see a number of names of possible students. Let us know. Do you have any other concerns, interests, and queries? Do remember what Sherilyn said earlier, that tomorrow is at 10:30 a.m. 10:30 a.m. Sherilyn?
Everyone hear me?
Yes, now we
Oh,
can.
yes. Sorry. Yep, tomorrow 10:30 a.m. If you're interested in finding out more about the NUS Geographical Society, do tune in at 10:30. Yep.
So our student leaders will be able to share with you more about student life, CCA, as a value add to your academic life, right? So my little encouragement to you is, don't just spend your time reading and filling up the academic boxes. Of course, we want you to be academically sound. At the same time, we want you to have friends, to have lots of meaningful fun. And no better way to have meaningful fun and value-adding fun than joining activities and possibly organizing activities as part of Geographical Society, right? So a question was asked about, are there prerequisites to study geography? No, you don't even need to have done geography at O and A levels. If you've done geography in the past, it might make you more comfortable. But as one of my colleagues had said very correctly just now, or one of my students actually, we teach geography at 1101, assuming no background. Okay, so no prerequisites to study geography, just declare GE 1101E as a module that you want to do. there was a question asked about, I want to read geography as my second major. Can I read GE 1101 in year 3 after I complete my primary major? I suppose you can, but why do the 2 majors in such discrete ways, right? My suggestion, I did 2 majors, geography and literature. I did them at the same time. Of course, geography is my first major. Literature is more like my secondary major. But I didn't wait until I finished geography before I did literature. I did them concurrently. So yeah, you can do geography at a later stage, but I would suggest that you do your first major and geography as your second major, almost side by side, rather than finish one and start the other, right? Because I think it's so much better in an interdisciplinary age for different disciplines to coexist side by side.
Right. Okay. So since we're running out of time, I think we should end the session now. Thank you so much, Prof. Chang and the geography team for sharing what it means to study geography under the CHS program. Now, everyone, if you have any further questions regarding geography, you can visit the geography website at fass.nus.edu.sg/geog. So it's GEOG. Okay. Or contact us via email or phone. The relevant addresses and the phone numbers, I think you all should be very familiar with by now. Before we conclude, we would like you to participate in a quick poll. You're strongly encouraged to, share with us your thoughts, and yeah, it will not take up a lot of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, and we hope to see you first in the Geographers Fresher Immersion Camp, and subsequently in GE 1101E. Thank you so much. Please complete the poll, and we hope to welcome you to the world of geography. Thank you. Thank you to my faculty colleagues and Mrs. Chong. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sherilyn. Thank you, Khairul.
Right. Thank you for taking part in our poll. Now, the next session we will have is on English language at 1 p.m. So if you're keen on considering that as your major, please stay tuned to our channel for the next talk at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much, Dean's office. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome. See you.
Bye-bye. See you. Thanks, Chien, Manusha. Hi, Wigek, Sherilyn. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the English Language Talk. We have with us this afternoon Dr. Peter Tan from the Department of English Language and Literature with his talk, Introduction to English Linguistics. Now, we will be taking questions from all of you using the Zoom Q&A function. Simply click on the Q&A tab and you will be able to ask questions as well as view other questions that have been asked and vote for them accordingly. Now, I will pass the time to Dr. Tan. Dr. Tan, please.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this session where we're going to talk about English linguistics. Now, the subject in the in NUS is officially English language, but I'm calling it the English linguistics, and I hope the reason will become clear. Some of you might be familiar with English language and linguistics at A levels. You don't need to have done the subject, but if you've done it, then it's something that's related to that subject. So what I've chosen to do now is to give a little session talking about language and focusing on 7 characteristics of language in general, just to give you a sense of the subject. Okay, so I'll take us into my PowerPoint, which is here. Right. Right. So, linguistics. What is linguistics? Is this a word that you have used? Chances are that if you've encountered the term linguist, you're thinking of somebody who speaks a lot of languages. Okay, so quite often when I say that I work in linguistics, they start and ask me, "Oh, how many languages do you speak?" The truth is that although a linguist might speak many languages, he or she need not. Linguistics is just the science of languages, all right? It's science in the sense that we make it an object of study. So language is the phenomenon that we study. So in the same way that in science, you have a phenomenon that you specialize in and you look at carefully and examine it in great detail. So that is what linguist is. So although we might speak many languages, we don't necessarily need to, we just need to know about languages because there's enough interesting things about languages that we can examine and ask questions about and theorize about. Okay, so this is what my session is going to be about. I hope not to be talking for a very long time, maybe 20-25 minutes. Okay, and I hope that there can be more interaction between us. All right, so what is so special about language? If you think about language, it seems to be something that marks out the fact that we are human beings, all right? So the term homo loquens is sometimes used, meaning speaking man, because this is what characterizes us as humans. Have you thought about it? That there's no other species that has this complete facility in language like human beings do. All right, it's only humans. Okay, we'll think about that. Can animals also talk? Well, clearly there is communication going on, but is it language? We're going to say that it's not quite the same at the same level. It's not quite language. So it's only humans. And then think about it. It's also every human, every person, unless of course you are incapacitated or had an accident or something like that. Every community, in every community there is language. In every remote community, that even communities that haven't encountered other communities, they have language. So that is quite a remarkable thing. What is the reason for this? How is it that we have become endowed with language, right? That's a fascinating question. Is it to do with our biological affordance, the fact that we have like organs that allow us to speak, to produce sounds, and that we have a kind of a brain to process language, that when people say something, we have in it in our minds to be able to process what is said? Possibly, I think if there's something that is endowed to us so that we are different as a species, and language marks us as that human species. We are mainly thinking about oral communication because human languages generally start off as spoken languages, but obviously we know that today we're thinking about different mediums, all right? But it starts off as being oral. So that seems to be something that we should pay attention to. So if language is the thing, one of the things that marks us out as distinctly human, it must be worthwhile to study, right? Is it different from animal communication? Sometimes people talk about animal language. Is it the same or is it not? Let's just have an example to think about it. We can think about like bees having a language, how they communicate differently. But I'm just going to give us this example of chimpanzees who vocalize, all right? So chimpanzees are similar to us in that they can produce sounds that come out of their vocal tracts, right? From out of their mouth. So we talk about this as vocalization. So the different kinds of sounds. Let me take you to a quick YouTube video to show you what I mean. Okay, so let's go and think a little bit about that. Now, that's, I think for many people, sorry, I need to get rid of that sound. Sorry about that. Let me get back. Okay. Sorry, the YouTube kept playing. So I think most of us would agree that although clearly there's communication, there are messages that being communicated between the chimpanzees. The thing that is communicated is qualitatively quite different from the kinds of things that we do say, right? The messages seem to be much more limited in kind. So we probably are going to agree that animal language is not quite the same as human language, and that if we use the term language, it is a kind of a metaphor if you talk about animal language. Okay, we might think about some of the features of language that is different, that we have, that's different from animal language. Like we can talk about learnability, usually not found in animal communication, being able to learn other variants, right? So different languages, different versions of the language, different varieties of the language? No, usually not. Reflexiveness, being able to talk about language, we can do that. Chimpanzees can't quite do that as far as we know, right? Duality of patterning, meaning being able to play around with features like sounds. So we might like to play around with words that have the same vowels, such as spot the top of the pots. Right, so we are playing around with the sound, and humans like to do that quite often, and it creates interest. And we have no evidence of animals being able to do that. And also, we can produce new messages on any topic. Right, so this is a notion of productivity. Right, so the conclusion seems to be that humans have language. It's only humans and not animals, and then it's all humans. So that's quite a remarkable feature for me, right? The second thing that I want us to think about is that language is creative. There's something essentially creative about language. So if we start off and ask a question, is language like code? I don't know whether some of you are interested in spy thrillers, espionage, and things like that. And during the war, during the Second World War, okay, obviously much before your time, but some of you might be interested in this. There were all these ciphers and codes and messages that were passed on, and then you had a code book, and you work out what the secret message was if you looked carefully and made that kind of decoding, right? So is language merely a process of decoding? Well, I'm going to say that it's not quite the same, okay? So although language is sometimes thought of as a kind of a code, and that your dictionary is like a kind of a code book, right? So if you have the code, I look up the code and I get the meaning. That is a one-to-one correlation all the time. But it's not always like that, in the sense that if you've got a code, then everything that you want to say must already be contained in the code book, all right? It is a finite number of messages that you can communicate. And this is a point that I want us to think about, that if you make a sentence, it is not impossible that that sentence is the first time anyone has ever put that together, all right? The sentence you said today could have never been said by anybody before at any time in the past. This is the special feature of human language. It allows for what is novel and what is innovative, all right? It is new. Language is such that it allows you to put together messages that have never been communicated before. All right, and you can play around with things that are already in the language so that you can produce new messages and use words in new ways. So, for example, if we look at this sentence, she would try to stiff upper lip it through, right? We understand it. We understand stiff upper lip, right? We understand stiff upper lip to mean somebody who bears the privations, difficulties by not complaining and following it through, right, without a lot of emotion. You have the stiff upper lip, but generally we don't use it as a verb, right? We use it as a phrase to mean to say somebody has stiff upper lip, right? He kept the stiff upper lip, we might say. But if you put it as a verb, he would try to stiff upper lip it through, use it as a verb. We still understand it. We understand it to mean that he would try to bear the difficulties by putting on a stiff upper lip, right? By trying to bear it to the end. Similarly, Houdini is famous as somebody who is an escapologist, somebody who can get out of a locked trunk. All right. That is a noun, that is a name. But if we put it in the sentence like this, she Houdini'd her way out of the locked wardrobe, we'd understand that. All right. So Houdini has been changed into a verb. And in fact, we are able to add a past tense marker there already. So she Houdini'd, past tense. And if you try to look it up in a dictionary, it won't be there. All right. Houdini is not a verb. Houdini is a noun. But we can use it like this, and we can get ourselves understood. This is the nature of language. We can be creative about it, and people will still understand it and make sense of what we're trying to say. All right. So there's this element of creativity that is so wonderful about language. All right. I want to say another thing about languages, because a lot of us will be aware that there are loads of different languages in the world. And some of us might want to say some languages are much more developed and others are a little bit primitive or basic and things like that. Okay, now I'm not talking about temporary or mixed languages like pidgins and things like that. Obviously, there are simplified languages that you would use for limited purposes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about languages that are used by different people for different purposes. And I'm going to say that there is no such thing as a primitive language where there are no rules or patterns. There is no language where you can do anything you like. You can put the words in any order that you like. That is not true of any language that we know. All right. Every language has rules, and rules means that there's a grammar. All right. Maybe not the same kind of grammar, but different kinds of grammars. So there are rules. All languages develop patterns that are shared by people who speak that language. So there are no primitive languages. The rules are known by everybody who speaks that language as a native speaker, let's just say. And the rules are there, although you might not be able to explain the rules. The rules might be subconscious. The competent speaker cannot always explain the rules. So let's have just some clear examples. These are well-known examples in linguistics. And this is just to point out a very simple fact, okay? So on the left-hand side, this is an imaginary thing. This is a wug. If we see another one of them, there are two of them, there are two wugs, right? Now, we have never encountered the word before, yet we know how to form the plural form of wug, and that would be wugs. Okay. The middle panel, this is a gutch. Now there is another one. Now there are two of them. There are two gutches, we would say. We know how to add an extra syllable. Okay, so that is quite remarkable in that even though we have never encountered the words before, we can form the plural because we know the rules of forming the plural in English. And have you noticed that for wugs, we've basically added, we didn't add an extra syllable, right? We just added a z sound. Whereas for gutch, we added an extra syllable and we said gutches is, we added another syllable. And if I ask a speaker of English, how do you know when you need to add z and when to add is. Some English speakers might need to scratch their head and work out what it is, right? So they're not necessarily aware of what the rule is, and they do it automatically. And the rule is therefore, this is what I'm trying to say, that the rule is within the speakers of the language, right? They're aware of the rules, and if they're speakers of that language, it will be in them. So the third panel on the right, this is a man who knows how to spout, okay? And you know that spout is a verb already. It's about doing something. He is spouting. He did the same thing yesterday. What did he do yesterday? Yesterday, he spouted. And we'd probably write it as S-P-O-W-E-D, right? So again, we know how to deal with tense markings, plural markings, and things like that. So these are simple examples of rules that are present in language, every kind of language. It's not that every language has got past tense marking or plural marking. It could be other kinds of markings. If we speak the language, we know how to deal with it. And every language has got its own rules. So we can actually study each language in quite detail. And because the rules are different in different languages, that is why learning another language can sometimes be challenging because the rules are not the same. But the main point is that every language has got its own rules. So that's the third point. I'm probably going to have to move on more quickly. Languages are similar in basic ways. We know that there are loads of languages. How many are there? There is a site called Ethnologue that tells you a lot about different languages. And by their count, there are about 7,000 languages today. The majority have less than 1 million speakers. 40% of languages are endangered, each one with less than 1,000 speakers. So there is a kind of an imbalance. The very popular languages are spoken by loads and loads of people, but the majority of the languages are spoken by very few speakers, right? So 40% are spoken by often less than 1,000 speakers. Okay, so the top languages are the things that you can see on the chart on the right-hand side. So English, Chinese, Hindi, Spanish, and so on. But in spite of the number of languages that we have, languages seem to be similar in some basic ways, like they're able to separate words into verbs and nouns, and all of them have some notion of words. All right, all of them use vowels and consonants, and I think that's to do with the fact that we start off by having oral languages, spoken languages, and to have spoken languages, you need to have vowels and consonants. Sometimes we can also note that individual words can also be similar, and they quite often have similar words for mum and dad. And the majority of the languages seem to have a certain kind of word order. Okay, this is not 100%. I will say a little bit more about that in a while. The word order that we have is subject, object, verb, object, and so on, right? So this gives you the example. So because English and Chinese uses subject, verb, object in making statements all the time, a lot of people think that all languages should do that, but that is not the case, all right? In fact, the most popular arrangement is subject, object, then verb, or she, him, loves, right? And that two patterns, SOV, SVO, accounts for 87% of all the languages in the world. Okay, so that's quite a fascinating thing. I'm going to move on. Language is something that is also very social. So I've thought about language being something very human, something that has rules, something that is creative, but language is also very, very important socially. because there's a lot of language variation, right? Because they're different languages, each language tends to be associated with a different community, and there might be some pride and association with it, that some sense of identity, and this people will claim that this is my language. When I hear this language, I feel very happy, right? And we might also mark out ourselves as being different from each other, even within a community. Right, so we might ask questions about how English is used differently by different people. Do older Singaporeans use English differently from younger Singaporeans? Do Singaporeans who live in landed property speak differently from Singaporeans who live in HDB? For example, people might wonder about that. So there's variation between groups of people, variation also within an individual. You and I don't talk the same way all the time. We vary our style depending on who we are talking to. So there's all this variation, and that variation is there to mark out differences. We're trying to send a message. You're sending a signal, and this message is essentially social in nature. All right, so if you've got time, think about these things. Are there differences in pronunciation? Some people talk about how if you pronounce a word with a R in it, there is an accent that pronounces it, and there's an accent that doesn't pronounce it. So I'm thinking about a word like, say, take my name, all right? So I say Peter, right? I pronounce my T very clearly. I don't pronounce the R at the end. If there's nothing else following it, I just say Peter. I quite often get people calling me Peter, all right? So the T is different. In that sense, a different signal. What does it mean if somebody says Peter as opposed to Peter? And then the R that I mentioned, what does it mean if somebody says Peter or Peter, right? As opposed to Peter, right? The R not pronounced. And the R itself could be pronounced differently as well. The T also could be pronounced differently. A Cockney, somebody in London might say Pia as well. So there's differences of pronunciation. All of them send messages, right? So there could be, those were examples on pronunciation. That could be differences in terms of word choice, word forms, sentence structure, discourse, like how do you respond to thank you? Different people respond to thank you differently. Some people might say you're welcome, some people might say not at all, some people might say my pleasure, and some people might just smile and say nothing, okay? And all of those might mean different things. So there's all this variation that we need to contend with. That is extremely interesting, all right? Point number 6, language has always been changing. I'm not going to dwell on this because we haven't got a lot of time. The spelling in English quite often tells us that the pronunciation was different in the past. So if you have a word house, we know that before 1400, people would have said hus. All right. If you have the word boot, before 1400, people said boat. And you see a pattern of the vowels changing position. And it's still happening in the US. There's something called the Northern City vowel shift. So the vowels are changing. So the word cat, which is traditionally cat, now is pronounced something like cat, all right? And because the cat has moved to cat, that a vowel that slot is left empty. And then that allows other vowels to occupy that slot, so that now the word L-O-T, I say lot, but Americans traditionally have said lat, and now Americans begin to say lat as well. So there's this movement changing, all right? Change is happening. So this is just a quick example, and we can look at how the same text can come out differently. So this is the Lord's Prayer. In the modern translation, it says, "Our Heavenly Father, may your name be honored." If we look at 1611, the King James Authorized Version, it says, "Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." You've noticed differences already. And move on to the Old English, AD 995, it says, "Vaderur, du there in heavenum, si di name gehaluord." Sounds like a foreign language now. It has changed that much. My last point is that languages are related to each other, right? So if we have 7,000 languages, how did we end up like this? But did this suddenly get 7,000 languages? If we examine the individual languages, we might realize that, hey, there is some sort of a relationship between these languages. So if you look at this English sentence and the German sentence, John drinks 3 glasses of milk every day. And we say it in German, Johannes trinkt jeden Tag 3 Gläser Milch. And if you look at it, you might see, oh, the word for milk, similar, right? Glass and Gläser, similar. Drink and trinkt, similar, all right? Tag and day, even, if you think that it's similar, all right? Similarly, if you look at the 3rd line is French, 4th line is Italian, you might also see there's a similarity. And the reason for this is that there are languages that are more related to each other than others. We haven't got time to look at this in detail, but people draw out diagrams to show how these languages have split up from each other, all right? So it's a kind of branching out. And English, as you see, belongs to one group that is in the West Germanic group, all right? You can explore this more later if you do English language, okay? And that here's another diagram that shows you how these are languages that belong to the Indo-European family of languages with words that are similar for the word mother. Right, I think we're probably out of time, okay? So I don't want to go on more about this. So these are the 7 things that I talked about. Language is distinctly human, language is creative, all languages have a grammar, languages are similar in basic ways, language is social in nature, language always changes, and languages are related to each other. Okay, so let's see, are there questions? Okay, let me have a look at this. Okay, question, how is JCELL similar to NUS English language? Is the content very similar? Is there greater focus on technical aspects, morphology, or sociolinguistics? It is similar in that we will be concerned about analyzing texts, but there is some kind of discussion of this similar content, but it takes it much beyond what you've done in ELL at A levels. So nobody needs to have done A-level English language and linguistics to be able to do English language in NUS. Students who have passed through our system have said that we give a different kind of focus. The kind of analysis that is done in ELL uses a kind of a framework of grammatical analysis that we don't necessarily use. So there will be stuff that will be new, and I don't think you will be bored. You won't be doing the same thing. I've got a question about assignments and exams. There's such a varied kind of thing. It's going to be very varied. It's not going to be the same. Assignments might try to get you to do projects to investigate, to collect data, look at how languages are used. I find it difficult to give you, to talk about how the assignments are, because it's going to be very different for each module that we do. Right? Some will involve writing essays, doing your research. It depends on the area within linguistics that we're talking about. So some of them will allow you or will get you to try and collect data for example, look at texts and things like that. Some of them might encourage you to do some questionnaires, a different sort of methodology. Some of them might get you to carry out experiments as well. So it's such a varied kind of approach that I cannot tell you exactly how it is done for everything. Another question, I'm exempted from taking NUS qualifying English test, but I'm not a native English speaker. Can I take English language as my major and minor in NUS? Yes, anybody who is exempted from doing modules in CELC, Center for English Language Communication. In other words, you don't need to do additional modules after because you've done well enough for A-levels or because you passed the QET. You are allowed to do EL, English language modules, major or minor or just the odd module. So yes, you're very welcome to come in. You don't need to be a native speaker, right? Yeah. So that is dealt with. Right. Are there more questions? I think I've answered the 3 questions. Are there comments about the things that I've said or anything else, right? Okay, I've tried to say that the English language is related to ELL for A-levels, but not the same. You don't need to have done it. We don't expect you to have done it, so we're teaching everything from afresh, as it were, right? You can do EL as your first major, second major, as a minor, and it can also come. It is also a component in another kind of minor called English Studies, which combines English language and English literature. So that is also available for you. Okay, I can see that there's something else in the Q&A. What careers do English graduates typically pursue? A number of them would take on career paths that are related to writing. So if they quite often become involved in communication in some way. So it could be like a journalist or the communications person in a company. So that has happened. We also have quite a lot of people getting into teaching. Okay, that is also quite common. A lot of our students are already MOE scholars when they come in. And that would also be why they end up being teachers as well. But then they're not all like that, right? Some of them might end up being teachers in private enterprises. But there are also a lot of people who end up in a lot of other places where this facility with language is considered very valuable. We are living in an era where language is increasingly important, that we are communicating with each other. We need to be very sensitive to the nuances of language and to be able to get through what we want to say effectively. And that is a very valuable skill. And this is kind of a byproduct of the kind of training that we give you. So you will get people who are involved in all kinds of things, right? So apart from the more careers that emphasize writing, like journalism, copywriting, advertising, we also have people who end up with unrelated things, apparently unrelated things, but then language is also very important. So you might end up, say, working in a bank, for example, or in the civil service and things like that. That certainly happened as well. We have people ending up in the media as well. So a range of different professions. The thing about the humanities is that it doesn't train you to do a particular thing. It just opens out the possibilities for you, and you probably need to think about the subject in that way. Right? It trains you to be open, to be sensitive to language use, and this is a very valuable skill in a lot of professions. Okay. Okay, another question. Thank you so much for the insightful and engaging presentation. Can I ask, are there any second majors that are a good pair for linguistics? Yes, plenty of things that you could pair up with linguistics. If you're interested in the language bit of it and the creative side of language, then obviously you can pair it up with English literature as well, if that is your interest. If you're interested in the more like the mind bit of language, then you could think about psychology as well. There are some aspects of language that will be linguistics that will touch on themes that come up with themes that come up in philosophy as well, right? Thinking about how language and the mind. So there is a little bit of overlap there, and obviously you can also pair it up with another language. So if you have Chinese linguistics, that could be paired up with English linguistics as well. Yeah, but we've had people who paired it up with second majors that are not necessarily related. Okay, the other thing I should mention is also theatre studies. We've had also people with English language and theatre studies as well, because you have language use in theatre as well. All right, so lots of possibilities.
Okay, so since we have no more questions, we will proceed to end the session. Thank you so much, Dr. Tan, for your time and for sharing on what it means to be an English language major at the CHS program. So if you have any further questions regarding English language, you can visit the ELL website at fass.nus.edu.sg/ELL or contact us via phone or email. Yes, the relevant email address and contact number is flashed on screen. Before we conclude, we would also like you to participate in a quick poll. You're strongly encouraged to participate in the poll. Let us know your thoughts. It will not take up too much time. Thank you so much, everyone. Yep. Okay. So thank you for taking part in our poll. Next up at 2 p.m., we have the next session on Chinese studies. So if you're keen on considering Chinese studies as your major, stay tuned and we'll be back with you shortly. Thank you.
Bye.